All right, guys, we are back with our weekly league preview for week 3. I thought we'd start out with an overview of the standings. The East Division is currently doing very well. We have four 2-0 teams. Matt Freeman is in number one. He scored the most points. I'm in number two with the second most points. Chase is also 2-0, and so is Patrick Teefy. Ryan, with his 1-1 squad, pretty good team as well. He's 1-1. The only 0-2 team we have is Dan Prince. West Division not doing as well. We don't have a single 2-0 team. Every team is at least 1-1. Joe Prince has scored a lot of points. Dan also 1-1. Ben with a big win last week as well. Um, the only real anomaly I see here is Patrick has faced by far the fewest points scored. He's gotten 40 less points than the next person, so he's had a pretty easy run of it. But see if it gets harder. So anyway, let's start right into the matchups this week. First matchup we have me versus Joe Prince. Honestly, gotta say, I kind of might have should have taken the L last week. You know, Nick Chubb going out and then me winning meant that I was like 12th in the waivers and couldn't get a single good running back. So anyway, here we go. Quarterback, we have Justin Herbert for me versus Geno Smith for Joe. It's Herbert for me facing a pretty trash Minnesota defense. He's very talented. Um, Geno Smith, you know what you're getting. At running back, I have Jalen Warren, the backup for Pittsburgh, who's been more efficient than Najee Harris, and Josh Kelly, backup for Austin Eckler. We'll see if Austin Eckler plays. If Eckler plays, I probably won't play Josh Kelly. For Joe, we have Josh Jacobs, clear number one running back. And Miles Sanders, I'd probably take both of Joe's running backs over both of mine, so clear edge to Joe here. Wide receivers, I'm starting Keenan Allen and Calvin Ridley. Joe is starting Tyreek Hill and Gabe Davis. Tyreek Hill didn't practice, but it's only Wednesday, my dudes. I guess we'll see if he plays or not. But if Tyreek Hill plays, I like him better than both of mine, but I like both of mine better than Gabe Davis. So I think this is maybe a wash. If Tyreek can't go, definitely like my squad over his. Tight end, Luke Musgrave for me. Hopefully, an up and coming tight end. Got a lot of targets the first week. Joe starting Mark Andrews, clear edge to Joe. Um, Flex, I'm starting Jalen Waddle currently. Joe has Raheem Mostert. If Mostert goes, he's always very talented, very fast. Jalen Waddle, we'll see if he gets through the concussion protocol. I really don't know what I'm going to do if he does not. I don't know who I'm going to play. So I like Waddle probably better if he gets through the concussion protocol. If not, like Mostert better. For defense, I'm starting the Cowboys versus Arizona, who are in active tank mode. Joe is starting the Steelers against Las Vegas. Las Vegas is not very good, but Arizona, like I said, is very, very bad. I like the Cowboys defense. They've been on point this entire season so far. Currently, I'm not starting a kicker. I'm just going to kind of see what shakes out with injuries and stuff, but doesn't really matter. Overall, I'm probably going to take Joe in this matchup. I just like his team better. I think there's more consistency and more upside for Joe. So I'm going to take Joe to beat me. Second matchup, we have Battle of the 0-2 teams. We have Jake and Neil. Neil, I squeaked out a victory against Neil last week. Again, might have been better for my team if I hadn't. Might have gotten a good waiver pickup with my running back, but oh well. Anyway, so at quarterback for Jake, we have Trevor Lawrence. At quarterback for Neil, we have Lamar Jackson. Trevor's been not as good as expected this year. Kind of struggled, honestly. Even though he is going against Houston, I'm probably going to take Lamar Jackson just because of his running ability. Got to think he gets in the end zone. Got to think he runs more this week. Running back, we have Najee Harris and James Conner for Jake, Jameer Gibbs and Rashawn Johnson for Neil. Rashawn Johnson, not a bad pickup. I wonder what the game script's going to be for him versus Kansas City, though. Chicago is one of the worst teams I've ever seen. Justin Fields actually has the worst winning percentage as a starter over at this point in his career ever. So, don't like that game script against probably the best offense in the league. Jahmyr Gibbs, with the injury to David Montgomery, should get a lot of opportunities if he can hold up. He is fairly small, but I like his shiftiness. Ultimately, I probably like Jahmyr Gibbs better than Najee Harris or James Conner. I think Najee Harris will probably cede some carries to Jalen Warren, who's on my team, or at least I hope he will. Najee just doesn't have the same burst that he looked like he had in college. Warren has been pretty explosive. James Conner's been a solid player already this year. He gets a whole lot of carries, not much competition. Like him better than Rashawn Johnson. So I think this is maybe kind of a wash. I like Najee Harris and James Conner better than Rashawn Johnson, but worse than Jahmyr Gibbs. At wide receiver, we have A.J. Brown and Tyler Lockett for Jake, Justin Jefferson and Amon-Ra St. Brown for Neil. If Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think I like Neil's better anyway, but if Amon-Ra St. Brown goes, definitely like his better. Justin Jefferson's one of the best wide receivers I've ever seen. St. Brown gets a lot of opportunities as well. A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts kind of got into a fight last week about his lack of targets. I guess we'll see if that changes. Lockett, always an underrated player, always going to produce, even though he doesn't get the draft pick like some people do. Like Neil's squad here, better than Jake's. Jake has Travis Kelce at tight end. Neil has Dalton Kincaid. I do like Dalton Kincaid. I think he's an up-and-comer for sure. But you got to give it up to Kelce, even though he does have the distraction of the Taylor Swift dating rumors going on. At flex, we have Cortland Sutton for Jake, George Pickens for Neil. Definitely like Pickens here. He seems very talented, number one. And number two, Deontay Johnson is out indefinitely for Pittsburgh, so Pickens is going to get a whole lot of opportunities. At defense, Neil starting the Eagles versus Tampa Bay. At least for now, Jake is starting the Panthers versus Seattle. If I was Jake, I would definitely try to be looking at the waiver wire for a defense. I think the Panthers are bad and they're going to get torn up. Definitely like Neil's defense here. Probably going to go Neil here. I like his wide receivers better, I like his quarterback better, his flex better, defense better. Neil's waiting for Alvin Kamara to come back. Then he'll be a pretty good squad. I'm glad I faced him early in the year. If I am Jake, if Amari Cooper goes, I'm probably substituting him in for Sutton. It just doesn't seem to be very consistent offense over there in Denver. So I'm probably starting Amari Cooper in the flex at the very least. I'd probably wait 1 week on Gainwell, Jake. If he comes back and is the starter and looks good, plug and play. But DeAndre Swift looked good last week, and no telling what's going to happen with that. So far I'm going to pick Neil to win this. Currently, it's about a 4-point projection. I think Neil's going to win it by more than that. All right, next we have Chase Flippo, who has, again, copied my name for whatever reason, versus Ryan Patton. Ryan is probably, in my opinion, the best 1-1 team. Him and Joe are both pretty good. This is going to be a high-scoring matchup. It looks like the projections at least say that. So at quarterback, we have Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. Josh Allen for Chase, Jalen Hurts for Ryan. I think Jalen's going to do it to you, Chase. I think Jalen's probably going to get more points than Josh. Josh Allen's just kind of looked off so far this season. Washington's got a good defense, in my opinion. At running back, we have Christian McCaffrey, Travis Etienne for Chase versus Bijan Robinson and James Cook for Ryan. These are both some pretty high-powered players. With all the running back injuries, these are two of the best players to be having in the game, honestly. I probably like Chase's overall better because I think I like McCaffrey better than Bijan, and I like Etienne better than Cook. But it's, could go either way. Probably take Chase as the edge on this one. Wide receivers, we have Chris Godwin and Zay Flowers for Chase, Deebo Samuel and Mike Williams. for Ryan. Like Debo, Baker Mayfield's been playing pretty good for Tampa Bay, though. So he's been doing pretty well. Zay Flowers is one of the best up and coming talents. Mike Williams, I feel like, has taken a little bit of a step back this year. Let's see. 83 yards, 8 catches. That's okay. 13 targets. Probably like Ryan's wide receivers better. Debo is one of the most athletic people in the NFL. Mike Williams is playing in a high-powered offense. I think I like Ryan's better. Tight end, we have T.J. Hawkinson. Ryan finally has Waller again. Both of these are good picks. I think it's kind of a wash. I think they're both kind of the 2 and 3 tight end in the leagues right now. That's kind of a wash. Flex, we have Brian Robinson for Chase and Marquise Brown for Ryan. Probably like Brian Robinson better. He gets more opportunities, clearly the lead back in Washington. Marquise Brown it just doesn't look explosive like he used to. Had a good game last week, but again, Arizona's going against one of the best defenses in the NFL. Defense, we have Chase is chasing points with the Chiefs versus Chicago. Ryan is going with the 49ers versus New York Giants, both a good matchup. Probably take the 49ers over the Chiefs just because of the talent difference. The 49ers are well coached, more talent on the defense than the Chiefs are. Both are going against horrendous offenses. Both should score a lot of points. Kicker, who cares? Wash. Probably going to take Chase in this one. I think his advantage at running back is enough to overcome his deficiency at wide receiver. Got a playmaker at tight end, got a playmaker at flex, and a decent defense. I think I like Chase in this matchup. Next matchup we have is Ben Towns versus Daniel Prince. Disappointing start for Dan after leading the league in points scored the last 2 years. May not happen this year, but hopefully he can turn himself around. At quarterback, Ben is starting Dak Prescott. Dan's starting Tua. Love Tua here. I think he's the best quarterback in the NFL when he's healthy. Second to Mahomes, maybe. But yeah, like Tua there. Ben's starting Derrick Henry and Ramondre Stevenson at running back. Dan's starting Joe Mixon and Kenneth Walker. Like Henry, I like Stevenson. Mixon, I thought I would like, but Cincinnati has just kind of imploded on offense. I mean, Joe Burrow, again, after becoming the most highly paid athlete in the NFL, has really kind of shat the bed since then, and he's brought the whole team down with him. Joe Mixon's been very disappointing. Kenneth Walker has been unexpectedly good, but I definitely think that Ben has the edge here. I like both of his better probably than both of Dan's. At wide receiver, we have CeeDee Lamb and Jaden Reed for Ben. We have Jamar Chase and Puka Nacua for Dan. What a year. What a start for Puka Nacua. He has started his year off with 35 targets in 2 games. 35 targets in 2 games. 15 the first game and 20 in the second game. 10 catches the first game for 119, 15 in the second game for 147. I'd never heard of this guy. He's unbelievable. But, show me you can stop him, I guess. Jamar Chase has been the biggest bust of the draft, probably, that doesn't have anything to do with injury. So probably like CeeDee Lamb better than Jamar Chase, but Jaden Reed, Puka Nacua is crushing it. So probably like Dan's here. At some point, you got to think Joe Burrow is going to get it together, and then they're going to ball out. Just got to see. At tight end, we have Jake Ferguson for Dan, Dallas tight end, versus George Kittle for Ben. I'm going to take Kittle just because he's proven. He hasn't done a whole lot this year, but he's always athletic, always a threat. Flex, we have Kyron Williams for Ben, DeAndre Swift for Dan. Dan's betting hard that Gainwell won't come back and that nobody else is going to eat into Swift's carries. Swift did display a little better vision on some plays last week. Exploded for 175 yards. But Kyron Williams has been killing it too. Kyron Williams, he scored 42 fantasy points already, 17 the first week, 25 the second week. I mean, he's been crushing it. His usage has been through the roof. Cam Akers is a non-factor. They're talking about trading him. I think this is kind of a wash. If anything, I'd probably take Kyron Williams, honestly. At defense, we have the Bills. Ben is starting the Bills versus Washington. Dan is starting the Jets versus New England. Dan, you probably want to look out and see how healthy the offensive line for New England is. If some of them are coming back, you know, the Jets can't really stay on the field on offense, and I feel like the Jets, kind of suffer for that. Mac Jones has actually played fairly well this year. It's been masked, by poor play from elsewhere. But anyway, Bills defense, I feel like this is kind of a wash too. This is a pretty tough matchup. I think this should be pretty close, closer than the projections are. Ben, if I'm you, I'm thinking about playing Taysom. Taste some of this, taste some of that. I'm thinking about playing Taysom at tight end. George Kittle, maybe later on in the year, but Taysom is clearly involved in the offense, clearly in the red zone. Like him, um, if I'm Dan, I'm trying to figure out where to put in Jerome Ford. I mean, I'm sure you had to burn your waiver pick for him. So, if you burn a waiver pick like that, you got to play him somewhere. So I'm counting on you to figure that out. Overall, I'm probably going to take. I'm going to take Dan in this matchup. I think the Bengals get back on track. Tua has a big week. And, the Bengals getting back on track means Mixon and Chase scoring. Puka Nacua is apparently the new Cooper Kupp, even better. So I like Dan in this matchup. Going back to the Chase versus Ryan matchup, if I'm Chase, I'm starting the team that I'm starting. If I'm Ryan, I'm starting the team that I'm starting. For Jake and Neil, I think I already said Jake, you should start Amari Cooper somewhere if he plays. Neil, you're waiting on Kamara for sure. I don't know what you do for running back, man. I'm in the same boat. Second to last matchup, we have Dan Carter versus Matt Freeman. Matt Freeman scoring a lot of points out of the gate like he usually does. Management kind of fizzles. At the second half of the season, he doesn't usually make the playoffs or anything, after scoring a whole lot of points in the first of the season. We'll see if that changes this year. So at quarterback, we have Patrick Mahomes versus Anthony Richardson. I guess if Richardson makes it through the concussion protocol, didn't play this today. If he makes it through the concussion protocol, I like him a lot, and I think it's going to be close. But Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the ever, maybe. And so I like Patrick Mahomes. Running back, we have Aaron Jones, questionable, and Rachaad White for Matt. We have Alexander Madison and Isaiah Pacheco, who is also questionable, for Dan. So Aaron Jones had a huge week, first week. Didn't practice all last week, didn't make the game. Didn't practice today. I guess we'll see what happens. If he plays, I like Matt's a whole lot better. Madison has been very disappointing despite some good performances when Dalvin Cook was out the last few years. Pretty much premier handcuff. Really performs well in spots like that. Just hasn't this year. Probably like Matt's running backs if Aaron Jones goes. We'll see. Wide receiver, we have Mike Evans and Terry McLaurin for Matt, Stephon Diggs, Chris Olave for Dan. I think I like both of Dan's better than both of Matt's, so huge advantage to Dan here. Stephon Diggs is number one on a huge offense. Chris Olave has really showed, that you can't leave him off the field for the Saints. Terry McLaurin, I feel like the Washington offense is still kind of, going through a growing phase. Mike Evans doesn't have Tom Brady anymore, or Jameis. He had a great week last week, but I don't think it's really sustainable. Tight end, we have Zach Ertz for Matt, Evan Ingram for Dan. Zach Ertz has had a lot of targets, and targets mean points. Um, Evan Ingram has also been pretty involved in the offense as well. Uh, Pretty consistent scoring, 7 8 for Ingram, and 5 and 8 for Ertz. Kind of a wash. I'd probably take Ingram because he's going against Houston. Ertz is going against Dallas, who's good on defense. At flex, we have Michael Thomas, who's somehow still healthy through 2 games of the season. Uh, and Dan is starting Javonte Williams for Denver so far. Michael Thomas has clearly been a huge part of the game plan. He was peppered with targets last week. Derek Carr clearly likes him. Got 9 targets last week, 8 targets the week before. He catches everything that comes near him, gets a lot of opportunities. I like Michael Thomas better than Javonte Williams. Again, the Denver offense I just don't really like. So we'll see. I think I like Thomas there. If I am Matt, I'm probably starting the same team that I'm playing, except if Aaron Jones can't go. Gus Edwards is an obvious plug and play there. Gus Edwards is going to have a whole lot of carries. Justice Hill's even questionable. They had to sign Kenyon Drake out of retirement, so it's the Gus bus going forward as far as I can tell. Dan Carter. You wish Saquon was there. Elijah Moore has not gotten the usage that they promised us. I would give Kareem Hunt 1 week to see what his usage is going to be before I start him. So I'm probably starting the same team Dan is. If Richardson can't go, though, going to have to get somebody off the waiver wire. So I probably like Matt in this matchup. He's favored to lose this week, but I think I like Matt in the upset. All right. Last but not least, we have Sarah versus Patrick. Sarah is pretty heavily favored. Currently favored by 30 points. That's wild. So at quarterback, Sarah is currently starting Justin Fields. Patrick is starting Joe Burrow. Tough to say that there's been a bigger disappointment in the NFL this year than Joe Burrow. Been pretty terrible. I've always thought he was overrated, but anyway, Justin Fields has also been pretty bad. He actually has the lowest winning percentage of a quarterback with this many starts. Only scored 14 points in each game so far, but you got to think the running ability is gonna come out. Only had 3 rushing yards last week. Got to think that changes against KC. Maybe they'll open up the playbook a little bit. Maybe they'll hit some downfield passes too. Probably like Justin Fields at this point. Joe Burrow is still questionable, and he's played like shit this year. So like Justin Fields. For running backs, we've got Tony Pollard and Dameon Pierce for Sarah, David Montgomery and Antonio Gibson for Patrick. David Montgomery is currently very questionable to play. Had a bad injury, had to get taken out of the game last week, but it says questionable. I guess Patrick hopes that he plays. Patrick also has Antonio Gibson, who I don't really like either because he's a backup in a bad offense. Brian Robinson clearly the top option there. Dameon Pierce is also disappointed this year. Game script has not favored him as well. He's a good runner, but you put him in these obvious situations. I don't know what you're supposed to do. Like Sarah's running backs though better. Tony Pollard is a top 3 asset at running back for sure. Good offense, good runner, explosive. I like Sarah's running backs. At wide receiver, we have Devontae Adams and T. Higgins for Sarah. We have Devontae Smith and Michael Pittman Jr. For Patrick. Michael Pittman's got a lot of usage as well. Devontae Adams, I guess he's going to play. I think thought he had a concussion last week, but He scored 17 points, had a lot of targets, was clearly very involved in the offense. T. Higgins came back in a huge way last week as well. Scored 24 points after scoring 0 in the first game. So you're definitely playing him as well. I like Sarah's wide receivers better than Patrick's. Devontae Smith is a good wide receiver, but got a lot of competition for targets. At tight end, Sarah's starting David Njoku. Patrick Teefy is starting Dallas Goedert. Like Goddard here, probably. David Njoku fucked me pretty hard this past week by fumbling after a nice long completion. That offense is terrible. Deshaun Watson's awful. The Browns are who we thought they were. I like the Eagles tight end, Dallas Goedert. At flex, we have Tyler Algier for Atlanta, running back. DJ Moore for Patrick. Tyler Algier for Sarah. Algier has had a good year so far, and it looks like they're continuing to use him. I mean, he got 15 carries the first game, 16 the next game, even with Bijan around, which is completely insane to me. Bijan looks incredible. Tyler Algier does not. But if they're going to keep using him, they're going to keep using him. And Detroit should be easy to run on with all the injuries that they have. DJ Moore broke out, I believe, for a big touchdown last week. Got 7 targets, 104 yards, no touchdowns, but did score a bunch last week. KC's back end's not very good. I think DJ Moore has more upside, but Tyler Algier is probably more consistent. I'd probably say this is kind of a wash. At defense, Sarah's starting the Browns versus Tennessee at home. Patrick starting the Broncos at Miami. Definitely like the Browns here. Tennessee's not a very good offense. Miami's maybe the best offense in the NFL. Broncos defense is not going to be able to stop Tua and those weapons if they play. So I like the Browns here. I like Myles Garrett a whole lot in their pass rush. Kicker, who cares? Sarah, if I'm you... Probably starting the same team that you're starting. Yeah. If I am Patrick, I'm hoping Eckler comes back, but that seems kind of questionable. Garrett Wilson, again, sorry, but he has been salvaging himself with touchdowns. Honestly, I'm probably playing Kirk Cousins at quarterback. He's been on fire. He's had crazy good games. He has to throw a lot. His defense sucks, so he has to throw a lot. I'm probably playing Kirk Cousins over Joe Cool, or whatever that people call him. Probably starting him over Joe Burrow. Garrett Wilson, tough to take out. I mean, he is the alpha dog. He is really talented. So thinking about him maybe over DJ Moore, I mean, it is similarly bad offenses and, not a whole lot of choice there. But Patrick is also carrying 3 defenses for whatever reason. So I'd probably start the Patriots over the New York Jets. I think Zach Wilson's one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen start an NFL game, and it looks like he's the guy for the rest of the year. So probably starting the Pats. Bill Belichick's really going to mess with his head. So overall, probably going to take Sarah in this matchup. I think Patrick's gotten kind of lucky so far this year, just running into teams that haven't scored a whole lot. Sarah has scored pretty well and just has run into teams that have scored a lot on her, so I'm going to pick Sarah for this one. So just to recap, I'm going to take Joe over myself. I think he has a much better team. I think it's going to be closer than 20 points, though. I'm going to take Neil over Jake. I'm taking Chase over Ryan. I'm taking Dan over Ben. I'm taking Matt over Dan Carter. And I'm taking Sarah over Patrick. That's my weekly league preview. I'll see y'all next week.